Hi there, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Seagrim Pierce. We're looking at the business of photography, and today we're going to be talking about quoting, invoicing, and just general admin. The dreaded nemesis of every creative being on this planet, admin and paperwork. If you're one of those exceptions that love admin, please let me know in the comments below how you got this right, because I'd love to learn this magical ability. This is probably my least favorite part about running a photography business. But my bank account doesn't really care, so you know what, we've just better get to it. Quoting on a project can look very different for you and me because we may be in very different fields of work. You might have a service that is very similar in nature and it's often repeated, so you can have something like a price guide that allows customers to choose a specific package with you. So this would be your wedding industry, your family portraits, maternity, etc. Types of services that you can offer again and again, and there's very little customization to them. It's just the same offering. So if you're starting out now and this is the kind of business segment that you want to go into, you're going to need to sit down with a notepad and your calculator, and you're going to have to sit and give this some thought. Your first cost is you. What is your time worth in monetary value? This rate is going to vary wildly across the kind of ranges of clients that you do work for. You'll maybe do a project that's a really big gig and you'll get a sizable paycheck, but you also maybe do a project for $100, but it's something that you're really excited to shoot. Both take the same amount of time, but it's how much value you put on that time is completely up to you. The next few lines on your quotes, or maybe this is included in your package, is what equipment you're going to need to complete the job. So are you going to need to hire some lighting or perhaps a lens that you don't have, but you know is going to work nicely for the job? You want to make sure that this is all budgeted for. Once you've got your prices set up, clients will know what they get from you, and you're going to also know what revenue you'll make from each of those packages that you have. There's no need to sit down and do a quote every single time. Say, for example, you're in an industry like mine where the project scope changes wildly in scale from one to the next. You're going to need to tailor each of those quotes individually. I very seldom have quotations that are identical. I could have a job that needs a scrim and a bound for $50, or I could be in a studio where I need 20 lights and a hefty grip spill. Your quotation really needs to be comprehensive and well thought out. You want to make sure that you're not forgetting anything critical that you need to complete that project. The fallout from not quoting correctly is that you might even lose money on a project, or actually even worse than that is not doing a job to the level that it needed to be done at, and now you've gone and ruined your name with that client. That's not a situation you really want to be in. Sometimes you might work on projects where the brief does change even after you've quoted. This is quite common sometimes in advertising jobs or TV commercial jobs where production will start quoting for jobs, but the final brief hasn't been signed off by the client yet. So in these cases, I do add a date and a timestamp to my quotations, making sure that it's clearly stated that this quotation is linked to this brief on a set date. And then once everything is signed off, done deal, you're good to go, project goes ahead. And just speaking of signed off quotations, this is something that you want to do before you begin any work. Depending on what you do, you probably want to take a deposit at this point, but a good rule of thumb is don't do any work until you have your deposit in your bank account or you have a signed quotation saying that that project is going ahead and that commitment is there. Invoicing is actually the easy and the fun part of admin, because if nothing's changed between your quotation and doing the project, the invoice is just going to be a one-to-one of the quotation. This will have its own invoice number, and if you're doing this manually, will be filed into whatever tax year you're currently in. And if you're using software, this will track it for you and it makes your life easier. You want to make sure that your invoice has all the small details that your client needs on there, including their company registration number, their VAT number, etc. Some companies won't process invoices unless it has all these details on them. So it's good to save yourself the time, get these details from the client, put them on your invoice so there's less back and forth when it comes to actually getting paid. There are a few other things you may want to do in the admin of your business. These can be done quarterly, biannually, or even annually. You want to keep tabs on your financial pulse, so to speak, to make sure that your budget is still accurate for your expenses, check what your gross and net incomes look like. It doesn't have to be major accounting either. It can just be these basics. If your operation is perhaps a larger one and you have more cash flow and you have suppliers, you probably want to look at actually getting an accountant to help you take care of this department for you. It's still on you as business captain to get these reports and analyze them. See where you need to tighten up or where you can even expand your business. So just to summarize our quoting, invoicing, and admin side of business. Firstly, you want to make sure that you calculate your prices accurately. Sit down with a calculator and add things up. Don't just thumb suck these figures. Secondly, work out your price first, as you're going to be the highest cost probably on that quote. Thirdly, get familiar with what gear and equipment you're going to need to complete a project so that you make sure you're always covering yourself for everything that you need to complete that said project. Fourthly, Keep your paperwork tidy, getting your cost estimates and your quotes signed off, and do proper invoicing. And fifth, do a few biannual or even annual financial reports just to assess how your business is really doing financially.
That wraps up this episode. Click here and it'll take you to the next episode for the next topic.